Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss a recent interview with John Carpenter where he shares his feelings about not only Halloween Ends, but also the future of the franchise in general, and whether or not Halloween Ends is truly the end for Halloween. Let's go. So this week, the comic book website posted an article that featured the creator of Halloween, John Carpenter, and he spoke candidly about his feelings for the current state of Hollywood and the possible future of the franchise after Halloween Ends. Now the headline reads, Halloween Ends, John Carpenter weighs in on whether the franchise could continue. Then the article goes on to say, much like the iconic villain Michael Myers, it's tough to kill the Halloween franchise, with the series seeing a number of sequels and reboots over the years. Though the upcoming Halloween Ends surely has an ominous title, leaving fans to wonder if the series will really conclude with the third film from director David Gordon Green. The original 1978 Halloween was directed and co-written by John Carpenter, who has served as a producer and composer on Green's trilogy. As far as whether the upcoming film will truly be the end of the series, Carpenter claims the goal is to end the franchise. But if something makes money, it's hard for studios to wrap things up for good. Now, we're gonna hear actually from John Carpenter himself. So here is John Carpenter's actual quote. Let me explain the movie business to you. If you take a dollar sign and attach it to anything, there will be somebody who wants to do a sequel. It will live. If the dollar sign is not big enough, no matter what, it will not live. Carpenter joked with comicbook.com about what could happen after Halloween Ends. Quote, I don't know, man. I don't know. This time, I do not know. They really want to end. They're going to shut it off, end it. That's what David has in mind. That's fine. So, man, I have to say that John Carpenter is, first of all, he's so incredible. And I just love how transparent he is in his interviews. I love this quality about him. He basically opened up here and confirmed what I think most all of us already know and have thought about, the future, regarding the future of the franchise, which is this, that the box office numbers always tell the story. And it's not just with Halloween. We see it with Scream. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. Scream hits over 100 million and boom, Scream 6 is announced right away. I mean, this is just how it works. It always works. Now, in the first part of his quote, he says, let me explain the movie business to you. If you take a dollar sign and attach it to anything, there will be somebody who wants to do a sequel. It will live. If the dollar sign is not big enough, no matter what, it will not live. And this, it just sums it up perfectly. And we saw this in a huge way with Scream 4. I mean, the legend himself, Wes Craven, he intended to make a new trilogy with Scream 4, 5, and 6. And due to the horrible lack of marketing efforts by the studio, I'm telling you, that's what I allocate 90% of this on Dimension and Miramax and the Weinsteins, because sadly, it never really had a chance. The marketing was so bad, it never had a chance. And we never got to see the next two Wes Craven films that were supposed to happen. So John here in his quote, he's really reinforcing what we've always known. And it's no different today than it was in 2011 and all the decades prior to that. If a movie makes enough money, there will always be interest to make another one. Or as John Carpenter said, it will live. So Halloween Ends has definitely been billed and promoted by everybody as the final Halloween movie. I mean, they literally are calling it Halloween Ends. And what we don't know is, what do they mean by ends? It could mean, is it the end of Michael Myers? Is it the end of Laurie Strode? Is it the end of both of them? Or is it the end of them and future films? That's the big question that we have at hand right now. We just don't know. Now, I find it very interesting that he started off by saying how as long as the movie makes enough money, it will come back again. He ended his statement, though, almost flipping the coin over to the other side a little bit, because then he says, this time, I do not know. They really want to end. They're going to shut it off, end it. It's what David has in mind. So it almost seems like John Carpenter himself, I believe he's being transparent and honest. He's not entirely sure this time if the franchise will continue after Halloween ends. And so, it could be if Universal's coming out now and saying, hey, we're not going to continue with it. The IP is going to the vault after this film. We're done. I mean, that very well could be the case. And I do find it very telling, though. If you notice the wording he uses, he says they really want to end. They're going to shut it off and end it. He did not say we want to end it, or we're going to shut it off, or I want to shut it off. He is very, very subtly distinguishing himself from the studio by the way he is describing it. And honestly, I'm glad to see this personally, because it should be John Carpenter, in my opinion, who decides, and not Blumhouse or Universal or any other person involved. Frankly, this should be John Carpenter who makes the decision on what happens with, the franchise, because he's the creator. It's his project from day one. Now, I know he hasn't been involved, after the first two, when he directed the first one, wrote the second one, and he's back, doing the as a producer and doing the music. So I understand all that, but I'm just saying that he is the creator. I mean, it's much the same way as I felt about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. They're making so many sequels without Wes Craven. And now listen, I understand how studios own the IP and they control what happens. I get that. So I understand, even though it was John Carpenter's creation for Halloween, it was Wes Craven's creation for Nightmare and Freddy Krueger. Once you're on that contract with the studio, it's their property. And I understand how that works. But that does not mean I have to like it. And it doesn't mean you have to like it either. Just because things are the way they are doesn't mean we have to like that. Now, do we have to accept it? Yeah, we do. But we don't have to like it. And so whether it be Wes Craven with the Nightmare franchise back then or Carpenter with Halloween now, it's tragic that studios can take these incredible creations from these brilliant storytellers and brilliant filmmakers and then dictate what happens in perpetuity. That's just really sad to me. And I know I'm ranting right now completely, but it's just how I feel. It's coming right now from my heart. I'm passionate about this stuff. And I just hate to see that. I understand that's the game. That's the business, they say. And so it is what it is. But I don't have to like it. And neither do you. But it's the nature. It is. It's just how it goes. So here's the good thing. Even though, like with Nightmare and with Halloween, some of these sequels were just so far inferior to the originals, it's going to happen. We know how horror sequels, and honestly, sequels in generally are inferior films for the most part, right? There's exceptions to all of this, but for the most part. So here's the good news, though. We always have those good ones we can watch again. We can always watch Nightmare 1. We can always watch Halloween 78. We can always go back to the ones that we like, and whatever those might be. And some of the sequels are good too. And I don't mind watching. It's just, the point is, whatever happens, that's the saving grace, I guess, is what I'm getting at, is that we always have the first ones, the real original ones we can watch over and over again forever. So that is a good thing. Now, I also want to mention that the article concludes with a brief comment from Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions, and he also has some very interesting things to say about the future of Halloween. And the article continues here. It says, despite this upcoming sequel being billed as the end of the series, producer Jason Blum would be happy to craft more entries into the series. And Jason says, we made an arrangement for 3 movies. We had a 3-picture marriage with Michael Myers. Blum confirmed with comicbook.com last year. Quote, I would love to extend it if Malik Akkad would let us. I'd like to extend it, but we're very busy making sure the third movie is spectacular because that's our immediate job. And if it goes beyond that, I'd be thrilled. But there are currently no plans for us to be involved after this third movie. So what I find most interesting in Jason's comments is that while he's open to make more Halloween movies at Blumhouse, as of right now, there are currently no plans for them to be involved after Halloween ends. So the future of the franchise, it really comes down to whether or not Malik Akkad wants to continue it in the future. Now, again, I think it will ultimately be a money decision, as I mentioned earlier. And while everything is being billed and marketed towards this truly being the end of the Halloween franchise, personally, I will believe it when I see it. All right, everyone. Now, I want to know what you think about this Halloween Ends update. How do you feel about John Carpenter and Jason Blum's comments? What do you predict for the future of the Halloween franchise? Do you think it will continue with them? Do you think that it will continue with a new, maybe he sells it to another studio? I mean, a lot of things can happen. So, just look what happened to the whole Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff. So anything can happen. So I want to hear your opinions, thoughts, your ideas, and your theories about what you expect to see, not only in Halloween Ends, but for Halloween, period, as we go forward. So start leaving your comments below right now so we can discuss it together. All right, that's it for this update, but I'll be back soon with more Halloween Ends and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thank you for watching.